Hey everyone, my name is Ajit and I'm with the San Jose Public Library and welcome to the third video in our Python basic tutorial series. And in this video, we're going to be continuing off where we left off last week with Python objects and data structure. And in this video, we're going to be looking at variables. So in the last video, we learned about different types of data types and structures like strings and numbers, but what do they represent? And it would be nice if we could use them in our code by referencing them to a different thing instead of having to type it out every single time. And that's where we get variables. With the variables, we can reference these data types later in our code. And here's an example. Number of pets equals 3. So this is an example of a variable right here that the variable name is called number of pets. And what this represents is this integer 3. And you can see how useful this is when we actually start coding with it. So let's get into some rules of the variable name. So a variable name cannot start with a number, and it can't use these symbols that are listed right here. They also can't have spaces in them, and they have to use the underscore. So as you can see up here in this example, there's no number. It didn't start with a number. It didn't use any of these symbols, and instead of spaces, we have to use underscore. So this is an integer right here, 3, and it is the value of this variable number of pets. And it is like coding etiquette that we actually use all lowercase for a variable, uh, all lowercase for a variable. And a variable can have an uppercase letter, but it usually gets a little bit more confusing, and it'll be best if you just stick with lowercase. And another thing is, it's better if we do not use names such as list or str or something that might denote another type of data type for a variable name. Like, it would be kind of confusing if instead of number of pets, we use something like list. Because now when we type in list, we get a bit confused on whether we're talking about the list. We get a little bit confused on whether we're talking about like a list variable, like a list data type, or just the list is the name of the variable. Okay, but now let's hop into the Visual Studio Code where I could show you some examples. So here we have Visual Studio Code, and if you don't know what this is, make sure to go back and watch our first video, because in the first video we learned how to like download Visual Studio Code, set it up, and start running. We're gonna start off simple. So basically, we want to have a string, let's say, called hello world. So if you want to print out that string, let's say we can type print hello world. And what this is gonna, and so now we have print hello world. So what this is gonna do is when we run it, we are going to get hello world right here. So let's make a variable. Let's just call it A. Really simple, just a letter. So to assign a variable, you need to write a valid name, and just this character A is a valid name because it follows all the rules. And you press and you type in the equal sign. So now you're about to assign this variable A to something. So what we're going to assign it to is the string hello world. So basically now what this means is this string hello world is stored inside the variable of A. So whatever I do to A will correspond to what I do to the string inside. Like if I print this A, it'll print hello world. And we could try it right here. Print A. So let's just delete this because we don't want it to print out twice. Let's run that. There we go. It printed hello world because we printed this variable A, and what this variable A has in it, it stores the string hello world. And a common mistake people might do is they actually print the variable in the form of a string. Like if I printed it like this with the quotations A, it won't print the variable. It'll actually just print the string A because we're not printing the variable, we're printing just the string right here. So make sure you don't accidentally put in quotes or quotation marks when you're trying to print a variable like that. Anyway, there we go. So other cool things we could do is we can assign it. So we could assign it to a lot of things. So let's try an integer right now. So let's create a variable called number. Simple, so we know what this means. So number equals 8. So now we have this number that stores 8 in it. So what if we want to add to this or subtract from it? So what we could do is we can actually assign another variable. Let's call it added numbers. And what added numbers is going to store is the value of number, which is our variable from back here, plus, so number plus 5. So what do you think this is going to return? You can try to pause the video and figure out what it's going to return. So figure out what added numbers is going to have in it. So basically added number is going to take this variable, the value of this variable, and add it to the value of 5. And now we're going to print our variable added numbers so we can see what it has stored in it. So what is this going to do is basically it's going to add 8 plus 5 because number is equal to 8. So number right here is going to be equal to 8, and 8 plus 5 is 13. So when we do that, when we run this, we should be able to have, we should get the number 13. And there we go, we got 13. So these are just really simple examples of variables. Once we start coding more, it'll get more complicated, but you can also see how useful it will be once we start coding more. Okay, and there's another thing we can do is, what if we do the same thing, except instead of using number, we actually use our variable a. What do you think will happen? So added stuff equals a plus 5. And I'm going to delete this real quick. Okay, wait. Plus 5. So I'm going to delete all of this real quick. We don't need that anymore. And now let me run it. So as you can see, we have an error. So if you haven't figured it out yet, basically the error is we're trying to add an integer into a string, and we can't do that. We can't add 5 to the string of hello world. And basically a will have hello world in it, and you can't add the string hello world plus 5. So this will be an error, so we can't do that. Okay, so those are some basic examples. You can also add variables together, but we'll get into that later. So that about wraps up this video. And in this video, we went over what variables are, how to assign them, how they help us, what they do, and yeah. So in the next video, we're going to be continuing on with our data objects and structure, and we're going to be exploring more things such as lists and dictionaries, and we're going to see how those work. So thanks for watching. I hope you really learned something in this video. If you didn't, you might learn something from our future videos. So make sure to subscribe to this channel and keep an eye out for them. Thanks for watching.